Ambassador Crixel stood at the observation window of Federation Station Omega-7, his three eyes watching the human delegation ship approach. His scaled tail twitched with nervousness. In his 40 years of diplomatic service, he had never met a species quite like the humans. The Federation of Aligned Species had existed for 3,000 years. It included over 200 intelligent species from across the galaxy. Each species brought something unique to the table. The Velthari brought their incredible mental powers. The Chronics contributed their physical strength. The Silithians offered their technological genius. And so it went, each species valued for what made them individually special. But the humans were different. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They were not the smartest. They had no special mental powers. Their technology, while impressive for such a young species, was nothing compared to what the Federation already possessed. So why did the Federation Council seem so worried about them? Crixel had read the reports. He had studied the files. He still did not understand. The ship docked with a gentle bump. Crixel straightened his formal robes and prepared to greet the human delegation. His assistant, a small furry Melian named Pip, stood beside him, datapad ready. The airlock opened with a hiss. 5 humans walked through. They were not impressive to look at. Soft skin, no natural weapons, 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs, average height, average build, nothing special at all. The human at the front stepped forward. She was a female with dark skin and short gray hair. She smiled, showing her flat teeth. Ambassador Crixel, I'm Admiral Sarah Chen, head of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. Thank you for receiving us. Crixel bowed in the traditional Federation greeting. Welcome to Station Omega-7, Admiral Chen. The Federation is pleased to formally begin integration discussions with humanity. The pleasure is ours, Chen said. She gestured to her companions. This is my team. Captain Marcus Johnson, our military liaison, Dr. Alina Rodriguez, our science advisor, Ambassador Yuki Tanaka, cultural affairs, and Lieutenant James O'Brien, our communications specialist. Crixel studied them. They stood close together. Too close, really. Most species preferred more personal space, but these humans almost seemed to lean toward each other as if drawing strength from proximity. Please follow me to the conference chamber, Crixel said. The council is eager to begin. As they walked through the station's corridors, Crixel noticed something strange. The humans talked quietly among themselves. They shared small looks and nods. When one of them stumbled slightly on the unfamiliar flooring, another immediately reached out to steady them. Such behavior was unusual. In most species, individuals operated independently, each focused on their own role. They reached the conference chamber. It was a vast circular room with seating arranged in tiers. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats, all watching the humans with curious eyes. High Counselor Vexorn sat at the center of the elevated platform. He was a Thornax, his body covered in sharp spines, his 4 arms folded across his chest. He was considered the most brilliant individual in the Federation, a strategic genius who had led the Council for a century. Humans of Earth, Vexorn said, his voice booming through the chamber. You stand before the Council of the Federation of Aligned Species. We have observed your world for some time. We have studied your history, your culture, your capabilities. Today, we will determine if humanity is worthy of joining our great alliance. Admiral Chen stepped forward. She did not seem intimidated by the massive chamber or the hundreds of alien eyes watching her. High Counselor, thank you for this opportunity. Humanity is honored to be considered for Federation membership. We believe we have much to offer. Vexorn leaned forward. Indeed. Tell me, human, what do you offer? The Velthari can move objects with their minds. The Chronics can crush steel with their bare hands. The Silithians built ships that can cross the galaxy in days. What can humans do that we cannot already do better? The question hung in the air. Crixel saw some of the council members nodding. It was a fair question. Every species in the Federation contributed something unique. What did humans have? Admiral Chen smiled. She turned to look at her team. They nodded at her, small movements of support. High Counselor, you ask what makes humans special. I could list our individual capabilities, but they would not impress you. We are not the best at anything, not when measured against the species of the Federation. Murmurs spread through the chamber. This was unusual. Most species boasted of their achievements when applying for membership. But Chen continued, we have something that we believe is valuable. We work together. Vexorn's spines rattled with confusion. All species work together to some degree. This is not unique. With respect, High Counselor, not like we do. In human society, we have learned that a group working together can accomplish more than the sum of its individual parts. We call this teamwork, and it is the foundation of everything we have achieved. A Velthari representative spoke up, her voice echoing with mental undertones. I have touched the minds of humans. They think constantly of others. Their thoughts are crowded, messy, always connected to other humans. It is chaotic. It is our strength, Chen replied. When one of us falls, others catch them. When one of us lacks a skill, others fill the gap. We are not strong alone, but together we are more than the sum of our parts. High Counselor Vexorn studied the humans with new interest. A pretty speech, Admiral, but words are easy. The Federation requires proof of capability. Tomorrow, your delegation will face the integration trials. These trials test the qualities that make a species valuable to the Federation. If you pass, humanity will be welcomed. If you fail. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Admiral Chen nodded. We understand. My team will be ready. Your team? Vexorn asked. The trials are individual tests. Each member of your delegation must prove their worth alone. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Chen's face, but only for a moment. We understand, she said again. We will be ready. The council session ended. Crixel escorted the humans to their quarters, a comfortable suite with 5 separate rooms. The trials begin at dawn, Crixel said. I suggest you rest. They are challenging. Thank you, Ambassador, Chen said. Could you tell us more about what to expect? Crixel hesitated. Officially, he should not help them prepare, but something about these humans intrigued him. There are 3 trials, he said quietly. Physical, mental, and strategic. Each is designed to test the individual limits of a species. In 3,000 years, no species has passed all 3 trials with a full delegation. Most lose at least 1 or 2 members to failure. The humans exchanged looks. Again, that strange silent communication. Thank you for the information, Chen said. It is very helpful. After Crixel left, the 5 humans gathered in the central common room. They sat close together, knees almost touching. Individual trials, Captain Johnson said, shaking his head. They want us to compete alone. Then we need to think creatively, Dr. Rodriguez said. The rules say we take the trials individually, but no one said we can't prepare together. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. Exactly. Tonight we plan. We share everything we know, everything we've learned about the Federation and its species. Tomorrow, we may stand alone, but we'll carry each other's knowledge with us. Lieutenant O'Brien pulled out his datapad. I've been monitoring Federation communications since we arrived. The Velthari representative was right about one thing. They think our mental connectedness is a weakness. But I've also picked up something interesting. The trials haven't been updated in over 500 years. They assume every species approaches problems the same way. Because every species does, Ambassador Tanaka said. The Federation values individual excellence above all else. Their entire society is built on it. The strongest Chronix leads. The smartest Silithian invents. The most powerful Velthari rules. They don't understand cooperation the way we do. Admiral Chen leaned back, thinking. Then that's our advantage. They don't know what to expect from us. They've never seen a species that truly prioritizes the group over the individual. "So what's the plan?" Johnson asked. Chen smiled. "Tonight we teach each other. Marcus, you teach us combat basics and physical techniques. Alina, share your scientific knowledge. Yuki, brief us on every species and their cultural weak points. James, tell us everything you've learned about Federation systems and communications, and I'll share my experience with alien negotiations." "We only have one night," Rodriguez pointed out. "Then we better not waste it," Chen replied. "We might enter those trials alone, but we'll enter them carrying the strength of all 5 of us. That's the human way." The team spent the entire night preparing. They practiced fighting techniques in the common room. They quizzed each other on xenobiology and Federation politics. They ran through every possible scenario they could imagine. When the station lights began to brighten to simulate dawn, the 5 humans were exhausted but ready. They stood together in their quarters, looking at each other. "Whatever happens out there," Chen said, "remember who we are. We're not just 5 individuals. We're humanity's representatives. We carry 6 billion people with us. We carry every human who ever worked together to build something greater than themselves. From the first hunters who coordinated to take down prey, to the teams that built the ships that brought us here, we are never truly alone." The others nodded. They clasped hands briefly, drawing strength from the contact. Then the door chimed. It was time for the trials. Ambassador Crixel watched the humans file into the trial chamber. They walked close together as they always did, but today there was something different about them. A quiet confidence, a sense of purpose. High Counselor Vexorn presided over the trials from his elevated platform. Hundreds of Federation representatives filled the observation galleries. Everyone wanted to see how the strange new species would perform. "The integration trials will now begin," Vexorn announced. "First, the trial of body." A section of the floor opened, revealing a vast obstacle course. Climbing walls, balance beams, trenches filled with water, spinning platforms, and dozens of other challenges stretched across the chamber. Each candidate will complete the course. The time limit is 15 minutes. Failure to complete results in elimination. Captain Marcus Johnson stepped forward. "I'll go first." He looked back at his team. Chen nodded. Johnson took a deep breath and stepped onto the course. What happened next would change everything the Federation thought they knew about humans. The physical trial began simply enough. Captain Johnson was the obvious choice to go first for humanity. He was their military specialist, the most physically fit member of the delegation. But what Crixel observed surprised him. Johnson did not run the course like the countless species before him. As he faced each obstacle, he seemed to pause briefly, as if listening to something no one else could hear. Then he would move with unexpected precision. At the climbing wall, Johnson used a technique that Crixel had never seen. Instead of relying purely on upper body strength like the Chronics, or using telekinetic assistance like the Velthari, he moved his entire body as a unified system. He shifted his weight in ways that seemed impossible, finding holds that others would have missed. "How is he doing that?" a Chronics representative muttered nearby. "That wall is designed to test pure strength." High Counselor Vexorn watched with narrowed eyes but said nothing. Johnson completed the course in 12 minutes and 37 seconds, not the fastest time ever recorded but a solid performance. He returned to his team, and they exchanged quick whispers. Dr. Alina Rodriguez went next. She was not an athlete. Her specialty was science, not physical activity. Crixel expected her to fail. But Rodriguez moved through the course with surprising competence. She did not have Johnson's strength or speed, but she approached each obstacle analytically. She found efficient paths. She used momentum instead of fighting it. She cleared the water trench not by swimming powerfully, but by floating and paddling with minimal effort. She finished in 14 minutes and 22 seconds. cutting it close, but she passed. The Federation observers grew quiet. Something strange was happening. Ambassador Tanaka went third. She was small for a human, with a slight build that seemed unsuited for physical challenges. Yet she too made it through, using techniques that seemed designed for someone of exactly her size and strength. 11 minutes 15 seconds. Lieutenant O'Brien followed. He was young, nervous, clearly not confident in his physical abilities. But he too passed, using a mix of all the techniques the humans before him had used. 13 minutes 40 seconds. Finally, Admiral Chen took the course. She was the oldest of the group, with gray in her hair and lines on her face. Crixel was certain she would fail. She did not. Chen moved through the obstacles with the precision of someone who knew exactly what to expect. She copied Johnson's climbing technique. She used Rodriguez's floating method for the water trench. She employed Tanaka's approach for the balance beams. She even anticipated problems before they came, just as O'Brien had done. 9 minutes 52 seconds, the fastest human time. The chamber buzzed with confused murmurs. 5 candidates from a supposedly average species had all passed the trial of body. This was unusual. Even powerful species typically lost at least one member to the physical challenge. How did they all prepare so specifically? Pip whispered to Crixel. They have only been here one day. Crixel had no answer. High Counselor Vexorn struck his platform for silence. The humans have passed the first trial. We now proceed to the trial of mind. The obstacle course retracted into the floor. In its place, 5 separate examination pods rose from the ground, spaced far apart. Each candidate will enter a pod. Inside, they will face a series of mental challenges: problem-solving, memory, logic, pattern recognition. The tests adapt to the candidate's level. Failure occurs when the candidate can no longer progress. The humans exchanged one last look before separating to their individual pods. The doors sealed behind them, cutting off all contact. Inside her pod, Admiral Chen faced a floating holographic interface. Numbers, shapes, and symbols filled the air around her. First challenge, a mechanical voice announced. Complete the sequence. A pattern appeared. Circles, triangles, squares, arranged in an increasingly complex order. Chen studied it for a moment, then smiled. Dr. Rodriguez had drilled them all on pattern recognition the night before. The next element is 2 circles followed by a triangle, Chen said. Correct, difficulty increasing. The patterns grew more complex. Mathematical sequences, 3-dimensional shape rotations, abstract logical puzzles. Chen progressed through them steadily, drawing on knowledge she had absorbed from her team. When she reached chemical equations, she heard Rodriguez's voice in her memory, patiently explaining molecular bonds. When she faced tactical scenarios, Johnson's lessons guided her responses. Cultural references triggered Tanaka's explanations. Communication puzzles unlocked with O'Brien's insights. In the other pods, the same phenomenon occurred. Each human faced their weaknesses, but instead of stumbling, they drew on shared knowledge. Johnson solved scientific problems using Rodriguez's teaching. Tanaka decoded military scenarios with Johnson's tactical thinking. O'Brien navigated cultural references through Tanaka's lessons. Hours passed. The tests grew increasingly difficult. Outside the pods, the Federation observers watched the telemetry in disbelief. "This is impossible," said a Silithian scientist, his 7 fingers dancing over his analysis console. "The mental tests adapt to individual ability. They should be reaching completely different challenges based on their personal strengths, but all 5 humans are progressing at nearly the same rate. Their brain patterns show something strange," a Velthari observer added. "When they solve problems outside their expertise, there is activity in memory centers associated with external learning, as if they are remembering solutions taught to them, not discovering them independently. High Counselor Vexorn's spine stood rigid with attention. They prepared together. Of course they did, the Velthari said. But this level of knowledge transfer in a single night, it should not be possible. They have essentially created 5 copies of the same combined intelligence. Finally, after 6 hours, the mental trials concluded. All 5 humans emerged from their pods. They looked exhausted, drained, barely able to stand. But they were all still standing. "This is unprecedented," Crixel murmured to Pip. "No species has ever passed the first 2 trials with a full delegation intact." The humans gathered together, supporting each other physically as they had mentally. Johnson put his arm around Rodriguez, who looked ready to collapse. Chen and Tanaka held hands briefly. O'Brien steadied himself against Johnson's shoulder. High Counselor Vexorn stood. The chamber fell silent. The humans have passed the trial of mind. Tomorrow they will face the final challenge, the trial of strategy. This trial will test their ability to think, plan, and compete. He paused, studying the exhausted humans with something new in his expression. Was it respect or concern? "Rest well," Vexorn said. "You will need your strength." The humans were escorted back to their quarters. Crixel watched them go, his mind churning with questions. That night he visited them. They were gathered in their common room again, despite their obvious exhaustion. "You should be sleeping," Crixel said. Admiral Chen smiled tiredly. "We will, but first we need to prepare for tomorrow." "You are still going to share knowledge after today?" "Of course, it's what we do." Crixel settled into a chair, his tail curling around his legs. "I have been a diplomat for 40 years. I have watched hundreds of species face the integration trials. I have never seen anything like what you did today." "We didn't do anything special," Johnson said. "We just helped each other." "That is exactly what is special," Crixel replied. "In the Federation, we value individual excellence. The Chronics believe that the strongest individual should lead and the weak should follow. The Silithians believe that the smartest individual should create and others should simply implement. The Velthari believe that the most powerful mind should rule and lesser minds should obey." "That sounds efficient," Rodriguez observed. "It is efficient, but it is also limiting. A Chronics leader who is not strong enough is replaced. A Silithian inventor who cannot keep up with the best is forgotten. A Velthari mind that is not powerful enough is ignored. There is no room for those who are merely average." Chen nodded slowly. "And you're wondering why humans are different." "I am trying to understand. Your species is average in almost every way. No offense intended. You should not have passed today's trials. Individually, each of you would have failed, but together. Together, we're more than we are alone," Tanaka finished. "That's the core of human civilization, Ambassador. We evolved as social creatures. We survived not because any individual human was the strongest or fastest or smartest, but because we learned to work together, to share knowledge, to support each other's weaknesses and amplify each other's strengths. We have a saying," O'Brien added, "none of us is as smart as all of us." Crixel considered this. The Federation has never encountered a species that truly values cooperation over individual achievement. We talk about unity, but in practice, every species in the Federation is a collection of competing individuals. Even our cooperation is just individuals negotiating for advantage. "That's not cooperation," Chen said. "That's just organized competition." "Perhaps, but it has built a civilization that spans the galaxy." "Has it?" Rodriguez asked. "Or has it just spread across the galaxy? What have you built together that couldn't have been built by one brilliant individual working alone?" Crixel opened his mouth to answer, then stopped. He thought about the great achievements of the Federation. The hyperspace gates built by Silithian genius Vortex. The peace accords negotiated by Velthari high-mind Kathana. The great fleet constructed under Chronic's warlord Bracton. Individual achievements, all of them. I cannot think of any, he admitted. Chen leaned forward. Tomorrow, in the trial of strategy, we're going to show you what true teamwork can accomplish. Whatever challenge you throw at us, we will face it not as 5 individuals competing, but as one team cooperating. The trial of strategy pits candidates against each other, Crixel warned. You will be opponents, not allies. The humans exchanged looks. Chen smiled. Then we'll show you something the Federation has never seen before. After Crixel left, the humans spent another night preparing, but this time they weren't learning new skills. They were planning. The trial of strategy will try to make us compete, Chen said. We need to figure out how to refuse. They'll have rules, Johnson pointed out, probably designed to force competition. Rules have loopholes, Rodriguez said. We just need to find them. Or make them, Tanaka added. They talked through the night, plotting every possibility. By morning they had a plan. And for the first time since arriving, they were all smiling. The trial of strategy was held in the largest chamber of Station Omega-7. Thousands of Federation observers filled the galleries, word having spread about the unusual human delegation. High Counselor Vexorn presided, flanked by the senior representatives of the Federation's founding species. His spines rippled with barely contained interest. The trial of strategy is the final test, he announced. It is designed to evaluate a species' capacity for tactical thinking, resource management, and competitive excellence. In this trial, the 5 human candidates will face each other in direct competition. The floor transformed, rising and shifting to create a complex game board. 5 starting positions were marked at equal distances around the edge. This is the game of Dominion, Vexorn explained. Each candidate controls a territory. They must expand, defend, and ultimately conquer. The winner is the last candidate standing. The losers are eliminated from the integration process. The rules were explained in detail. Resources, units, attacks, defenses. It was a complex strategy game that tested planning, aggression, and the willingness to sacrifice others for victory. Take your positions, Vexorn commanded. The 5 humans moved to their starting points. They stood alone now, separated by the vast game board, but they did not look at the board with competitive hunger like other species did. They looked at each other. Begin. The first few rounds proceeded normally enough. Each human claimed adjacent territories, expanded their resource base, built units. The Federation observers nodded approvingly. The humans understood the game. Then something strange happened. On round 7, Captain Johnson moved his forces toward Dr. Rodriguez's territory. It looked like an attack. The observers leaned forward with interest. Finally, the humans would fight each other. But Johnson's forces stopped at the border. They didn't attack. Instead, they established a defensive line facing outward. Rodriguez's forces moved to meet them. They too established defensive lines, facing outward. Together, the 2 human forces created a unified defensive perimeter, stronger than either could have built alone. What are they doing? A Chronix representative demanded. On the other side of the board, Tanaka, Chen, and O'Brien were doing the same thing. Their territories merged, their forces combining into coordinated defensive formations. This is against the rules, the Chronix shouted. The trial requires competition, not alliance. High Counselor Vexorn held up a hand for silence. He studied the board carefully, then consulted the ancient rule texts. The rules state that candidates must expand, defend, and ultimately produce a winner. They do not explicitly prohibit temporary alliances. Temporary, they are not fighting at all. Then we shall see how they resolve the endgame. But the endgame never came, not in the traditional sense. The 5 human territories merged completely. Resources were shared equally. Units were distributed based on strategic need, not ownership. The humans were playing the game of dominion not as 5 competitors, but as one unified force. Hours passed. The game was designed to end through elimination, but no one was being eliminated. The humans had created a stable, unified territory with no internal conflict. Finally, High Counselor Vexorn called a halt. "This is unprecedented," he said. "The trial of strategy cannot be completed as designed. The humans have refused to compete." Admiral Chen stepped forward. "With respect, High Counselor, we have not refused anything. We are playing the game to win. But there must be one winner. 5 candidates entered. Only one can succeed." "Why?" The question echoed through the chamber, such a simple word carrying such weight. Because that is how the trial works. That is how the Federation works. Individual excellence proven through competition. Chen nodded. "And has it occurred to you to ask why the Federation works that way? Why you designed a trial that forces potential members to fight each other before they can join you?" Vexorn's spines rattled with irritation. "The strong rise, the weak fall. This is the natural order." "Is it? Or is it just one order among many?" Chen gestured to the game board. "Look at what we built. 5 territories that could have spent their resources destroying each other instead chose to combine. Our unified territory is stronger, more efficient, more capable than any single human territory could have been. If we had fought, 4 of us would have been eliminated. Instead, all 5 of us are here, contributing everything we have." "But someone must lead," a Velthari representative insisted. "Someone must be in charge." "We all lead," Johnson said. "In the areas where we're strongest. I led our military strategy because that's my expertise. Dr. Rodriguez led our resource management because she understands optimization. Ambassador Tanaka led our diplomatic coordination because she understands how to help people work together. Lieutenant O'Brien led our communications because he understands information flow. And Admiral Chen led our overall vision because she sees the big picture." "That's not leadership," the Velthari scoffed. "That's chaos." "No," Rodriguez said quietly, "that's teamwork." The chamber fell silent. Crixel watched the council members exchange confused, troubled looks. They were facing something their worldview couldn't easily accommodate. High Counselor Vexorn stood slowly. His ancient body carried the weight of 1,000 years of tradition. His voice, when he spoke, was surprisingly soft. "In 3,000 years of Federation history, no species has ever challenged the fundamental assumptions of the integration trials. We designed them to find the best individuals within each species, the strongest, the smartest, the most cunning. We believed that a federation of exceptional individuals would be stronger than any alternative." He paused, studying the unified game board. "But you humans have shown us something we never considered. You have demonstrated that a group of average individuals, working together with true cooperation, can match or exceed what our greatest individuals achieve alone." He turned to face the full council. "I call for an unprecedented action. I call for a vote to fundamentally reconsider humanity's application, not as 5 individual candidates, but as one unified team." The vote that followed was chaotic. Federation politics had not prepared anyone for this moment. Dozens of species argued, debated, and disagreed. Some saw the humans as a threat to the established order. Others saw them as a curiosity, interesting but ultimately irrelevant. A few began to understand the implications. If humans were right about teamwork, then everything the Federation believed about strength and leadership might be wrong. Finally, after hours of debate, High Counselor Vexorn called for order. "The Council has reached a decision. By a narrow margin, we vote to accept humanity's unorthodox completion of the integration trials. The humans will be admitted to the Federation, not as 5 individual members, but as a unified species delegation." A murmur ran through the chamber. This had never happened before. However, Vexorn continued, this decision is conditional. Humanity must prove that their approach to cooperation offers real value to the Federation. They will be assigned a task that has defeated every species that attempted it. If they succeed, they will be full members. If they fail. He did not finish the sentence. Admiral Chen stepped forward. What task? Vexorn's spines rippled with something that might have been dark amusement. The Void Sector, a region of space that the Federation has claimed for 500 years but has never been able to develop. Every colony fails. Every station is abandoned. Every species that goes there eventually turns on itself. The Void Sector breaks individuals. He looked at the 5 humans. Perhaps it cannot break a team. The Void Sector. Even the name sent shivers through Federation veterans. It was a region of space on the edge of Federation territory, rich in resources but impossible to settle. Colonies had been attempted 17 times. All 17 had failed, not through external attack or environmental disaster but through internal collapse. Colonists turned on each other. Leaders became tyrants. Communities fractured into warring factions. The Federation's best scientists had never understood why. 3 months after the integration trials, the human delegation stood at the observation deck of the colony ship Hope's Horizon, watching the Void Sector grow larger in the viewscreen. Admiral Chen had expanded her team. 200 human volunteers had joined the mission, scientists, engineers, doctors, farmers, teachers, builders, every skill that might be needed to establish a colony. Nervous? Johnson asked, standing beside her. Terrified, Chen admitted, but we didn't come all this way to back down. The Hope's Horizon carried them to a planet designated V7, the most promising candidate for colonization. Previous attempts had all been on this world. Its environment was challenging but survivable. Its resources were abundant. There was no reason a colony shouldn't thrive here. And yet every colony had died. The ship landed. The 200 humans stepped onto the surface of their new home. The air smelled wrong, not toxic but strange. The sunlight seemed slightly off. Everything felt just a little bit uncomfortable. This is where it starts, Dr. Rodriguez said, checking her instruments. According to the Federation records, most colonists report feeling uneasy within the first few days. The unease grows into irritation. Irritation becomes conflict. Conflict becomes violence. But they never found the cause, O'Brien asked. They thought it might be a radiation effect on brain chemistry, but their treatments didn't work. They thought it might be a sonic frequency in the atmosphere, but filtering didn't help. They thought it might be psychological, the isolation and alien environment creating stress, but experienced space colonists failed just as quickly as newcomers. Chen looked at her team, not just the original 5, but all 200 humans who had volunteered for this mission. Then we don't try to find the cause, we try to be stronger than it. How? Tanaka asked. Chen smiled, the same way we passed the trials together. The first month was hard. The humans built their initial structures, living quarters, a research center, a hydroponic farm, a medical bay. They established routines. They held morning meetings where everyone shared their feelings and concerns. They ate dinner together every night in a common hall. They formed support groups, hobby clubs, study circles. And slowly, the unease began to build. It started as small tensions, a disagreement about resource allocation, a conflict between engineering and farming teams over priorities, a personality clash between 2 researchers, normal human friction but sharper than usual. Federation observers watched from orbit, expecting the familiar pattern to unfold. Tension would become resentment. Resentment would become isolation. Isolation would become hostility. And then the colony would tear itself apart. But the humans did something unexpected. When tension appeared, they addressed it immediately. not by suppressing it but by talking through it. Conflict resolution meetings were held daily. No grievance was too small to discuss. No relationship was allowed to fester in silence. "This is exhausting," Johnson admitted during one late-night discussion. His team had spent 4 hours mediating a dispute between construction crews over equipment sharing. "I've been in combat that felt easier than this." "But it's working," Chen pointed out. "We've been here 6 weeks. Previous colonies started fragmenting at week 3. Are we actually resisting something, or have we just gotten lucky?" Rodriguez looked up from her analysis console. "I've been studying the data. There is definitely something happening. Look at these brain scans." She pulled up holographic images showing human neural activity. Every colonist, without exception, is showing elevated activity in the amygdala, the fear and aggression center. Something on this planet is stimulating our fight-or-flight response. We're all constantly on edge, ready to perceive threats and react violently. "Then why aren't we fighting?" O'Brien asked. "Because we're also showing elevated activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that controls impulses and enables social cooperation. Our threat response is being triggered, but our social response is stronger." Tanaka nodded slowly. "It's like the planet is trying to make us afraid of each other, but our training to work together is overriding it." "Not training," Chen said. "Nature. Humans evolved as social creatures. Our brains are literally built for cooperation. Whatever this planet throws at us, it's fighting against millions of years of evolution." "Will that be enough?" Johnson asked. No one had an answer. Month 3 brought the real crisis. It started with the dreams. Colonists began reporting nightmares, vivid, disturbing dreams of isolation and betrayal. In the dreams, friends became enemies. Allies became threats. Every human was alone, surrounded by hostility. The dreams spread. Every colonist experienced them. Sleep became difficult. Tempers frayed. The tension that had been held at bay began breaking through. "She took my equipment," a farmer shouted at a community meeting. "I left my harvesting tools in the field, and when I came back she had taken them." "They were unused," the accused woman shot back. "Why should resources sit idle when I need them?" "Because they're mine." The word hung in the air. Mine, not ours, mine. Chen felt her own temper rising. The farmer was being unreasonable. The woman was clearly in the right. Why couldn't he see that? Why couldn't anyone see that? Why was everyone so stupid and selfish? And she caught herself. Those weren't her thoughts, not really. She looked around the meeting hall and saw 200 faces twisted with anger and suspicion. The planet was winning. "Stop," she said. Her voice was quiet, but something in it cut through the noise. "Everyone stop, look at yourselves, look at each other. Is this who we are?" The colonists blinked. Some of the anger faded from their expressions. "The planet wants us to fight," Chen continued. "Whatever force exists here, it's designed to break us apart, and right now it's working. We're turning on each other over tools, over small conflicts, over nothing." "It doesn't feel like nothing," the farmer muttered. "I know, I feel it too. We all do, but we have a choice. We can let the planet win or we can fight back, not against each other, against this." Dr. Rodriguez stood. "I have an idea. What if we lean into our cooperation more heavily? Instead of just managing conflicts, what if we actively build stronger connections?" "What do you mean?" Johnson asked. "Pair everyone up. Not for work, for friendship. Every human pairs with someone they don't know well. They share meals together. They talk about their lives. They build genuine relationships. Make it harder for the planet to isolate us." "That's a lot of forced socialization," O'Brien said doubtfully. "Do you have a better idea?" No one did. The pairing program began the next day. It felt awkward at first. People who had been strangers sat together at meals, trying to make conversation. People who had been rivals found themselves sharing personal stories. But slowly something changed. The farmer who had fought over tools ended up paired with the woman he'd accused. They talked. They learned about each other's lives, his family back on Earth, her dreams of building a new world, their shared fears about the colony failing. By the end of the week, they were working side by side in the fields, sharing tools without a second thought. The bond spread. 200 strangers became 200 friends. Then 200 became one community. Conflicts still arose, but they were resolved not just through formal mediation, but through personal connection. Month 4, Month 5, Month 6. The Federation observers watched in disbelief as the human colony not only survived but thrived. Crops grew. Buildings rose. Children were even born, the first new generation on a void sector world. High Counselor Vexorn himself traveled to V7 to see the miracle. He walked through the colony streets, his ancient spines quivering with amazement. Humans moved around him, smiling, greeting each other, working together on 1,000 small tasks. There was no hierarchy visible, no dominant leader giving orders, just people cooperating. "I do not understand," he admitted to Admiral Chen as they toured the community center. "Every species that attempted this failed. Species stronger than you, species smarter than you. How are you succeeding?" Chen thought for a moment. "Can I show you something?" She led him to the colony's central park, a green space that the humans had established in the first month, even when they needed every resource for survival. This park was controversial, Chen explained. Some colonists argued we couldn't spare the water or the space. We needed every resource for practical purposes, but we built it anyway because we knew we would need a place to gather, a place to be together. "Gathering serves no practical purpose," Vexorn said. "Doesn't it? High Counselor, when your species faces a challenge, what do? The strongest individual takes charge and solves the problem. Others follow their lead. And what if the strongest individual fails? What if they can't solve the problem?" Vexorn's spines rippled. Then a stronger individual rises to replace them. But what if no individual is strong enough? What if the problem requires more than any single being can provide? The old High Counselor was silent. "Humans face every challenge together," Chen said. "Not because we're weak as individuals, though we are, compared to many species. We do it because we've learned that cooperation multiplies strength. One human might fail. 100 humans working together almost never do." She gestured to the park, where colonists were gathering for an evening meal. Children ran between the tables. Adults laughed and talked. Somewhere, someone was playing music. This planet attacks the individual. It creates fear and isolation and aggression. But we're not fighting it as individuals. We're fighting it as a community. Every connection between us is a thread of resistance. Every friendship is a wall against the darkness. Together, we're stronger than whatever this planet can throw at us. Vexorn watched the humans for a long time. "In 3,000 years, he finally said, the Federation has expanded to 200 species and 1,000 worlds. We have achieved greatness through the excellence of individuals. The strongest Chronics, the wisest Velthari, the most brilliant Silithians. We celebrate heroes, not teams." "Has it made you happy?" The question startled him. "Happy? Has your civilization of competing individuals created fulfillment, connection, joy?" Vexorn thought of his own life. 1,000 years of political struggle, constantly proving his worth against rivals, never truly trusting anyone because everyone was a potential competitor. He was the most powerful being in the Federation, but he could not name a single friend. "I do not know," he admitted. "Perhaps we have not asked that question enough." Admiral Chen smiled. "Maybe it's time to start." The Federation changed that day. Not all at once, not completely, but the first cracks appeared in an ancient worldview. Vexorn returned to the council with a new message. He spoke of what he had seen on VS7. He described the human approach to cooperation, not as a weakness compensating for individual inadequacy, but as a strength surpassing what individuals could achieve alone. Some council members dismissed his words. The Chronics insisted that strength would always triumph. The Velthari claimed that mental power was the ultimate measure of worth. Many species clung to the old ways. But some listened. The Melians, a species of small furry beings who had always been overshadowed by stronger races, began experimenting with human-style teamwork. Their productivity increased dramatically. The Silithians, despite their intellectual pride, formed collaborative research teams for the first time. They made discoveries that had eluded individual geniuses for centuries. And in the void sector, the human colony continued to grow. 10 years after the first landing, V7 had become a model for a new kind of civilization. Other species sent observers to learn human techniques. Multi-species teams were formed, applying cooperation across biological boundaries. The very concept of strength in the Federation began to shift. Admiral Chen, now approaching the end of her career, stood at the dedication ceremony for the Void Sector's first city. It had been named Unity. Ambassador Crixel stood beside her. His 3 eyes were bright with emotion. "You know," he said, "when you first arrived at Station Omega-7, I thought humanity would fail. You seemed so ordinary. No special abilities, no exceptional individuals, just a group of average beings." Chen laughed. "We are average, that's the point." "No," Crixel said firmly. "You are extraordinary, not as individuals perhaps, but as a species. You showed us something the Federation had forgotten, that the whole can be greater than the sum of its parts, that cooperation is not a sign of weakness but of wisdom." He gestured to the city spreading before them. Humans and aliens walked the streets together. Multi-species teams worked on projects too complex for any single being. Children of different worlds played together in parks. "You changed everything," Crixel said. Chen shook her head. "We didn't change anything. We just reminded everyone of something they already knew. Deep down, every intelligent species understands that connection matters, that working together feels right, that no one truly wants to be alone." She looked out at the city her people had built, not through individual genius, but through countless small acts of cooperation. The Federation valued individual excellence because it's easy to measure, one strongest, one smartest, one fastest, but the things that really matter can't be measured that way. Trust, friendship, community, love. These are the forces that build civilizations, and they only exist between individuals, not within them. Crixel considered this. So humanity's greatest contribution to the Federation is friendship. Chen smiled. "When you put it that way, it sounds simple, but think about what friendship really means. It means trusting someone else with your vulnerabilities. It means caring about someone else's success as much as your own. It means standing together when things are hard, not because you have to, but because you want to." She put her hand on the old ambassador's scaled arm. "That's not simple at all. That's the most complex and valuable thing in the universe, and it took humans millions of years to learn it, but we did learn it, and now we're sharing it with you." Crixel covered her hand with his. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything." High Counselor Vexorn died peacefully 3 years later. In his final address to the Federation Council, he said something that would be remembered for millennia. "I have ruled this Federation for over 100 years. I have seen species rise and fall. I have witnessed great achievements and terrible failures. But the most important lesson I ever learned came from a species we almost rejected for being too ordinary. The humans taught me that true strength is not found in individual excellence but in collective cooperation. We are not stronger despite each other. We are stronger because of each other. Remember this, and the Federation will endure forever." He was succeeded not by a single new High Counselor, but by a council of 5, representing different species, working together in the human style. It was the first time in Federation history that leadership had been shared. The new system was messy. It was inefficient. Arguments were frequent and decisions took longer to make. But they were better decisions, and the Federation became stronger for them. Humanity continued to grow within the Federation. They were never the dominant species, never the strongest or smartest or fastest, but they became something perhaps more valuable, the connective tissue that held everything together. Where other species clashed, humans built bridges. Where conflicts seemed unsolvable, humans found ways to cooperate. They brought their sports, their arts, their music, all of it designed around teamwork and shared experience. They brought their traditions of family and community and friendship. They brought their stubborn insistence that no one should face challenges alone. And slowly, generation by generation, the Federation transformed. The final chapter of this story was written 2 centuries after humanity first arrived at Station Omega 7. By then, the original human delegation was long dead, but their legacy lived on in a changed galaxy. A new threat emerged from the unknown regions of space. A hostile intelligence, vast and powerful, began attacking Federation worlds. It was the greatest crisis in Federation history, a threat that no individual species could hope to defeat alone. In the old days, the Federation would have fragmented. Species would have looked to their own survival, competing for resources and safety. The strong would have abandoned the weak, every being for themselves. But that was not what happened. Instead, the Federation united as never before. Multi-species fleets combined into a single force. Resources were shared freely across all worlds. The strongest protected the weakest. Scientists from 100 species collaborated on solutions that no one could have found alone. They called themselves the Allied Forces of the Federation. And at the heart of their battle plan was a strategy that had originated with a small, soft, unremarkable species that had arrived 2 centuries before. Teamwork. The war lasted 7 years. It was brutal and costly. Many died. But the Federation endured because they faced the threat together. When one species faltered, others held the line. When one world fell, others provided refuge. When hope seemed lost, voices across the galaxy reminded each other, we are not alone, we are never alone. Victory came not through the heroism of any individual, but through the cooperation of all. And when the threat was finally defeated, the celebration that followed was not for any single champion, but for everyone who had contributed. In the aftermath, the Federation erected a monument at the site of the old Station Omega 7, where humanity had first made contact. It was a simple structure, 5 figures standing in a circle, hands joined. The inscription read, "Dedicated to the human delegation that arrived 2 centuries ago with nothing to offer but a simple idea. They taught us that we are stronger together, that cooperation is not weakness but wisdom, that the whole can be greater than the sum of its parts. We stand united today because they showed us how." And at the base of the monument, in smaller letters, "None of us is as smart as all of us.